the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at tonight's 15-game slate. Pretty good size one here, obviously the max. And a lot of good, really a lot of good teams here in good spots, especially some good hitting ballparks like Great American. We have Coors. Just kind of a full slate with a lot to offer.
I would say supple is a good describing word for it. Nice and supple.
That is very good. It's very, I can't come up with a word for it.
Yeah. That's a delightful word for this slate. Yes.
Diving into the first game here, you got the Marlins and Pirates. Garrett Cole versus Tom Kohler. As far as going about this game for offense, I'm not really a big fan of it. I think it's a pretty mediocre one, just given the fact that, two guys that aren't pitching well, obviously Cole and Kohler, in a pitcher's ballpark. I'm just kind of staying away in terms of being a 15-game slate. I do like Gregory Polanco, 4,600. He's probably about the only one I do like from this game.
Oh, yeah. No, this is super gray area. Two mediocre pitchers, two mediocre offenses, especially since Stanton out of the lineup. The Dietrich Realmuto, Adeni Hechavarria combo not really holding up their end of the deal at the end of that lineup. So I might even think of Garrett Cole as a tournament guy with that kind of lineup out there. But, yeah, overall, I'm not really looking too deep into any of these hitting options, unfortunately.
It's just one of those ones. On a 15-game slate with so many better options, there's no real need to kind of dive into this one.
Right.
So, Cardinals and Phillies next year. Adam Morgan versus Adam Wainwright. And if you've been in the DFS world for the last year and a half or so, Adam Morgan is one of the worst pitchers in the league. 375 WOBA with the righties, 1.99 home runs per nine. So you can certainly fire away with basically a lot of these Cardinals bats. And I think obviously Stephen Piscotty is going to be the one who stands out as the top option.
Yeah, Stephen Piscotty and cash, we don't have to worry about that. Tommy Pham also at 4,400. That's a pretty reasonable price. I'm also not shying away from the Matt Carpenters of the world. Obviously has that positional versatility on DraftKings at second base and third base. I think even getting into Yadier Molina, I think you can stack four guys in this lineup and come out pretty good by the end of the night. So I'm not afraid of that either.
Yeah, I really don't mind the Molina, the Peralta, the Jerko, the Grichuk range. Just because of how bad Morgan is. You look at Philly, pretty friendly ballpark for right-handed power. Cardinals projected for over 5 runs. Even though the Cardinals aren't that great against lefties overall as a team, this is a different story with Morgan.
Yeah, for sure. And on the Phillies side, Odubel Herrera would be interesting if he wasn't 5K. But other than that, I think I'm going more with Wainwright than the bats in this Phillies lineup.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. Maikel Franco is still probably the only one I might take a look at. But, yeah, they make it easy as far as pricing to kind of fade. Cameron Rupp at 4.8, Cesar Hernandez, who was scratched last night, 4.7. As you mentioned, Herrera, 5K. No way. It's just kind of one of those ones where I can fade.
Doesn't this look like a lineup that would be projected more for like 4.5, 5 runs, not like
this looks like the Phillies and Coors.
Like, yeah, Phillies back I don't know. Aaron Arthur at 4.4, like at 3.4 maybe, but 4.4. That's egregious. I guess I like using that word now. Ever since I learned how to truly spell it, I looked at egregious for about 5 years, and I used to be like, what the heck is that word? And I'd hear the word and know what it means, but when I'd read it, I'd be like, gregarious? It sounds like an old
Gregorio Pettit.
Yeah, it sounds like some Herculean character.
It's certainly the word of the year here for the DFS community, because I do feel like you're not the only one who throws it around.
I feel like everyone throws it around because it's an automatic win.
Yeah.
Smart in a conversation, you just say egregious somewhere, and it's like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. So that's a little tip, folks. you
Yeah,
want to sound smart, just use egregious.
toss that in when you can.
Yeah.
Astros in Baltimore next year. Wade Miley versus Colin McHugh. Wade Miley has actually surprisingly pitched better than I expected in Baltimore. While I'm still not buying it, he's a guy who I'll certainly look to pick on with a couple Astros bats. I don't mind the pay up for George Springer or a Jose Altuve or personally, I mean, Evan Gattis is probably my favorite, just given the value standpoint there. But I don't mind those bats or even a Carlos Correa if you're looking to do an expensive one-off. Those are probably the four I'd use.
Yeah. I mean, Miley certainly isn't coming out hot with the longer term splits, but I mean, I guess the question is how much exposure you want to these high priced righty bats, and obviously referring to Springer, Altuve, Correa, Gaddis, and not really Gaddis, but for his price, it's a little expensive. I like them, especially Springer. I mean, you kind of look at these splits. Things add up pretty well for those four. But as you mentioned, Miley's pitched a little better at home, so it's kind of a weighted thing. I think you can do that full stack if you fade pitching, maybe throw in a Wainwright or something. But overall, yeah, uh, 5-5. That's a tough price to pay up for, especially in like a cash game situation.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, Houston kind of one of those teams where it's like they're always the main exposure guys are always so expensive. It just kind of pushes them into a tournament territory automatically, especially on tonight's slate, where I feel like they're not quite the type team to pay up for either.
Right.
As far as Baltimore goes, I mean, I do like the righties here. You look at Colin McHugh since last year, 336 WOBA. McHugh's either a guy who's just completely on or completely off. I like the Mark Trumbo price tag, even though obviously his second half has been not quite like his first, as expected. I mean, it was tough for him to kind of produce a similar way. But I do like the righties here: Adam Jones, Machado, Trumbo, and I even don't mind GPP Chris Davis at 4,300.
Ooh, wow. We went there, folks. I'm usually the guy that refers to Chris Davis and gets my hand smacked down at the cookie jar by Jason. And I guess we're going there tonight. So, I'm always in for a little Chris Davis home run potential action. But yeah, overall, McHugh, not a strong pitcher during at least this stretch. I like Trumbo at that price, obviously. 43 is a nice price for that upside, and obviously what he's shown this year. So I do like that. Kind of takes the edge off the Machado Adam Jones in this lineup, but overall, yeah, I'm looking at Chris Davis Trumbo.
Yeah, I think obviously Jones and Machado are certainly, especially the Jones price tag is a little bit. Machado definitely deserves that price tag. Jones, you could argue
Yes.
either or. But yeah, I'm in agreement. I think obviously Davis and Trumbo are kind of the better values there, while Jones and Machado are kind of obviously the pay up options.
Right.
Rangers and Rays next year. Matt Andres versus Cole Hamels. I'm a big fan of Cole Hamels. Obviously on the road where he's been much more solid this year. I mean, obviously Tampa is a good team against lefties, but I'm just kind of staying away from pretty much most of these bats. I mean, obviously you do have some nice prices there, but I don't feel like I need to dive down into that value.
Yeah, and with Forsythe potentially missing this game, this could be ugly for this race. Hitting well against righties, but this is a tough matchup for him. Brad Miller as well. Matchup. Unless you have faith in Mickey Matuk, I think you're probably going with Hamels here over this group.
Yeah, I certainly am. And as far as the Rangers go, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of the matchup. It's not the best, and I actually don't mind some of the prices, though. I think that's where I'm kind of a little bit intrigued because you do get some of these guys that have been priced up in pretty much the 5K range over the last week or so, and you get them at a decent price. So I'm okay with doing some one-offs from here, like a Beltran or an Odor. Lucroy, I'm probably going to be certainly fading given the fact that he's the only one who's super expensive.
Yeah, and while the splits don't line up perfectly, Profar at 29 is someone I'm probably at least going to look at in a tournament.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I like him at second base. If you were to dive down there,
Yeah.
certainly leading
Yeah.
off is where I'd use him.
Hmm.
Red Sox and Tigers next year. Rick Porcello versus Michael Fulmer. Obviously, two right-handers that have certainly kind of limited damage throughout this season, but obviously two very good offenses. I'm not really looking to really attack this game as far as hitters go. I mean, there's probably going to be some one-off potential there. Um, but I mean, you look at Fulmer. I mean, pretty good against lefties. Strong ground ball rate. I mean, keeps the ball in the park. So it's kind of like I don't like Ortiz. I don't like Bradley. I don't know. I'm kind of off this game as far as altogether.
All right, let's say it's 6:30. Red Sox lineup comes out. Benintendi's hitting seventh at the min. Are you jumping on that in the tournament, or are you still fading?
Certainly, I'll give that a look, given the fact that he
Yeah,
is 2K.
right.
And obviously, I mean, I don't mind the Pedroia and Bogart's price. I mean, obviously, that's a lot easier to accommodate. And Fulmer can be a little bit home run prone against righties. So I'm certainly okay with probably actually those two. And even a Hanley or Ramirez at 3,200. I'm okay with the value bets and taking shots there in tournaments.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a tournament lineup, but not one you want to get a lot of exposure to. In terms of this Tigers lineup, again, the end of the lineup guys are very priced down, like they're playing a Bumgarner, you know. So I don't necessarily think that's the case, but it's still not. You still can't play those guys, I don't think.
No, and I don't mind. I mean, Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, JD Martinez, even a Kinsler. I mean, those are certainly reasonable price tags. And obviously, like a
Mhm.
Porcello, I mean, Porcello has been a solid option this year, but, you know, struggles a little bit more on the road, a little bit more home run prone on the road. Has given up 12 of his 18 there. I'm okay with the Tigers as one offs, but obviously they're studs, and you don't have to pay up for them either. So that is a nice kind of benefit.
Yep. And I mean, I want to like Tyler Collins, but I can't do it in this matchup, even at 21.
Good. I'm glad. It's weird that there's so many dive down options there.
I know.
Dodgers and Reds next year. Bud Norris versus Tim Adelman. And you look at this game. As far as the Reds go, I mean, uh,
Beef.
the prices are certainly expensive, and you like the match just because Bud Norris has really struggled with lefties. Go back to last year, 1.71 home runs per nine, 382 WOBA, 40% hard ball rate. I'm not saying they're not in play, but they are just a pricey duo to kind of get exposure to there with Hamilton and Votto.
It's a Shebler night.
Shiblett's the
2,800.
value.
Yeah, give it to me. I'll take that at 2,800. Obviously, probably not a cash game guy, but I do like that. Throwing that in the outfield for 2,800 in a tournament. I still think Votto's in play, but overall, yeah. At 5,300, that's probably out of cash game range.
It's an expensive one, and obviously when you have a Coors game, when you have a couple of strong pitching options, it's like, all right, well, where can I make my move? And if you have the money left over for Votto, I mean, he's a for sure guy to fire in there.
Right.
As far as
And I guess, yeah, Dodgers, Corey Seager, that's probably cash, right?
Corey Seager is a guy who, if you pay up at shortstop, I definitely don't mind in all formats. The one guy who is a little bit overpriced for me is certainly Chase Utley at 4,500. I just feel like that's a little bit high for me. And obviously the ballpark is great for all these bats. And once again, here we are with the Dodgers being super expensive. Kind of a change of events from where they were earlier in the year. I mean, obviously things have definitely turned around the second half for this offense, but great matchup for those lefties. I don't mind paying up and getting one-off exposure. I mean, I like a Justin Turner as well. I think you can certainly fire away with really 1 through 7.
Yeah, definitely 1 through 7. Yes, Money Grandal, pretty interesting again. Jock Peterson, interesting contrarian tournament play. I mean, yeah, this is just an awful matchup for Tim Adelman. This lefty-heavy lineup is just. I think you're kind of looking to stack this lineup quite a bit here. I mean, I don't know how much cash you're going to get in here unless you do pay down significantly at pitching, but I mean, if you can fit it in, do it whatever way you can. Obviously, Justin Turner's not exempt from right-handed hitting either, or right-handed pitching either.
Yeah, it definitely isn't. So that game overall, I mean, could be one of the higher scoring ones on the night, especially if those secondary pieces are able to come in for the Reds. But I don't see that happening. It's just more just a focal point on the lefties.
Right.
Blue Jays and Indians next year. Francisco Liriano versus Trevor Bauer. I'm not really a big fan of the Indians' offense tonight. I mean, I'm certainly okay with Mike Napoli. I'm okay with Rajai Davis. Brandon Geyer's price took a big jump. I don't know. I mean, I like it just because Liriano hasn't been great this year and has been a little bit home run prone. So I don't know. I guess for the price, it doesn't seem like the most perfect matchup for me, even though Liriano has been really not his usual self this year.
This is just like, it defines it pretty perfectly, though. Everyone being over 5K for the Indians against the lefty. I mean, I don't know. You're pretty much looking at everyone here, but at the same time, you might not necessarily want to get a ton of exposure because they are all so expensive. I'm okay with Rajai Davis and Mike Napoli. I like that combination if you do want to pay up, but overall, yeah, it's super expensive, obviously.
It is, and it's not something I'm going to be getting a ton of exposure to. It's probably more of just a GPP lineup, if anything, and that's about it.
Yeah.
As far as the Blue Jays go, though, I mean, kind of a similar thing here where they are a little bit more expensive. Obviously, look at Bauer, can be a little bit home run prone at times. And this is kind of a similar situation where obviously the Blue Jays here haven't been the best of offense of late, but there's still certainly a lot of potential here. For me, it's just more kind of one-offs with Travis, Encarnacion, Dalton if he's in the lineup. Other than that, I don't feel like I need to dive down or pay for those secondary options. They're just way too expensive, more than they usually are.
Yeah, and with Batista on the DL and Donaldson now questionable, this lineup definitely loses a bit of its edge with those two potentially out of the lineup. I still like Encarnacion quite a bit and Saunders, excuse me. I feel like that's a big faux pas in life. Calling a Saunders a Sanders, I feel like that's insulting.
Yeah, it's not Barry Saunders.
It's like super obvious when you get it wrong too. Like that's one name that's like you can't. I don't know, whatever. But obviously I knew that, so you jerks can stop it. Get out of my mentions. But I like those two, Encarnacion and Saunders. But yeah, like you mentioned, I don't think you necessarily have to dive down. It's not a lineup you necessarily are looking for value in.
No, definitely not. In really this game, I mean, alone, there isn't any value to really be had. Right. Nationals and Braves here next. Tanner Roark for Julio Teheran. This game, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of for offense. I'm certainly okay with making basically a Harper Murphy lineup here. I'm okay with those two just because obviously Teheran, his struggles have been always against lefties. I mean, go back to last year, 350 WOBA, 1.59 home runs per nine. He's a guy who is pretty tough on righties, so I'm kind of off the Trey Turner train tonight. Same thing with Worth, Ramos, Rendon. And as far as the Braves, I mean, I don't like Roark, but I don't like the Braves either.
Well, and you're obviously in on Danny Espinosa.
Oh, clearly at 2,400, yeah, with his 38% strikeout rate.
Oh, I figured it was really more about the mustache game.
It is.
Put some in cash play.
In my mustache-only lineup, Espinosa is obviously one of the key factors in it.
Yeah, no, I like the Harper Murphy stack if you want to pay up for that, but that's really a contrarian move at that stage. Overall, though, I mean, what do we do with Freddie Freeman at this point? Is he cash against righties like every day? We just do that?
He's been really he's been really solid. I mean, it really is hard to knock him.
Obviously, he's not going to hit a home run He's not going to hit a home run every night, but I mean, Jesus.
He really has been such a consistent option. I mean, you look at over his last 10 games, when hitting over 400, as you mentioned, the home runs have been there. The extra base hits, I mean, 4 doubles. I'm certainly okay with it. I definitely don't hate that move. For me, it's still kind of one of those ones where I do lean towards tournaments a little bit because I always kind of feel like I do like to dive down a little bit, maybe a little bit more, or kind of pay up. He's just
Yeah.
always in a range where, like we always talk about him on FanDuel, he's always a solid option just because the pricing he's always kind of priced up a little bit.
It's weird because I don't think it's a coincidence Matt Kemp getting traded there and him just starting to go off. So, I mean, maybe he finally just has a little backup in that lineup, and that's kind of what we're just going to see from now on.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good point. Even though Matt Kemp hasn't really done anything in Atlanta, it's like,
it's just like him being there. Freeman's like, all right, just stand there. I'll take care of it, but just be here, please.
That's exactly how it's gone so far. A's and White Sox next year, James Shields versus Kendall Graveman. I actually like this game quite a bit. I mean, obviously, you look at Graveman. He's a guy who struggles on the road, struggles against both sides of the plate when he's on the road, but obviously more so with lefties. And you look at Graveman, I mean, since last year, 3.39 WOBA. I don't mind an Adam Eaton. I don't mind a Melky Cabrera. I mean, that Melky Cabrera price is really nice.
Say it.
At 3,300. And then obviously Jose Abreu, Justin Morneau are certainly in play as well.
The bully. It's a Justin Morneau night, folks. He's going to be stuffing people in lockers all night. Yonder Alonso better watch out.
Todd Frazier.
Huh?
I mean, I don't mind Todd Frazier. I think this is certainly an intriguing offense to kind of go at just because Graveman really hasn't been the best outside of Oakland. I mean, you look at some of these White Sox guys, I mean, they do hit better in U.S. Cellular as they should. I mean, it is a friendly ballpark. It's one of the better ballparks for hitters in the game. So I'm okay with taking some shots there. I mean, the value is certainly there.
And a weird little play, I don't even mind if Tim Anderson is betting 7th. I don't even mind a 5-6-7 like goofy tournament move there because that's pretty cheap for Morneau and Frazier. You probably want to get Abreu in there too if you do that though. But I mean, Morneau's just going to be stuffing Yonder Alonso in a locker. Like that's what's going to be happening around, 9:30. So I like this. I like this White Sox team quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, I do too. And as far as the A's go, I mean, I certainly don't mind them here against James Shields. I don't mind Stephen Vogt behind the dish. I don't mind Chris Davis. Even a Coco Crisp, I mean, if you want to get weird in GPP, I mean, you just look at Shields, I mean, continues to just be beanbagged out there on the hill. I mean, it's just, I'm okay with finding away with some A's bats here.
And he doesn't discriminate. It's both sides of the plate. So on a normal night, you'd probably be fading the A's versus a righty. But, hey, tonight, you know what? Let's have a party.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely an upgrade there as far as going into U.S. Cellular from where they're at home. And as you mentioned, both sides of the plate have hit Shields really well this year.
Chris Davis also, a nice little dong chaser there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, who doesn't like a good dong chaser?
Yeah, me. I like dong chasers.
Twins and Royals next year. Edison Volquez versus Jose Barrios. This game overall, I mean, obviously you can make a case for the Royals based on what Barrios has done so far in his major league career. You can look at really both sides of the plate, so I'm okay with taking a look at this Royals team. It's not something I'm jumping all over, but I certainly don't mind Salvador Perez for that price. I don't mind Paulo Orlando, who's hit the ball really well. I think those are kind of solid options. Hosmer, I don't quite see myself using tonight just because I like a lot of other first base options.
I agree to an extent on Hosmer, though I do like that matchup. Lorenzo Cain and Salvador Perez are really the guys I'm looking at tonight. I love those values, and I think they fit into pretty much any lineup you're trying to construct. So those are my two guys. Paulo Orlando and Chesler Cuthbert obviously in play. Barrios been awful against righties this year, over a 4 HR per 9 in those 32 innings so far. So that's rough. Obviously, that's going to come back down to earth at some point. But for now, I mean, I think we can at least use these guys in tournaments.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And on the Minnesota side, I don't really like the prices here. I'm just not a big fan of obviously Kauffman Stadium. It doesn't allow a ton of potential. And at prices of like a Joe Mauer, Dozier, Kepler, I mean, obviously Dozier just continues to crush the ball, but I on a full 15-game slate, it's just something I'm not diving into.
Dozier really is a power hitter's name, isn't it?
Dozier the bulldozer.
There you go. There you go. There it is.
I don't. That has to have been used before, but I feel like I've never
There's
heard it.
no that has a little TM in the corner. There's no way that's yours. But I mean, if it is, we got to patent that bad boy.
Yeah, Brian Dozier, get at me if that hasn't been used.
That's yeah, absolutely.
Cubs and Rockies next year. Kyle Hendricks versus Tyler Anderson, and here we go. Cubs and Coors. What are we going to get out of them? Coors games have been fairly disappointing. I mean, outside of the early one a few days ago with Washington and Colorado, it was like 13-11. But outside of that, this year hasn't been the best, but still certainly in consideration. You have guys like Dexter Fowler, Chris Bryant, Zobrist, Javier Baez, Wilson Contreras. I mean, those are all right-handed bats that are certainly worth a look tonight.
Yeah, and you know who's not a look tonight still? Jason Hayward. Don't do it. Cheap in that lineup, but don't do it. That's not something you want to involve yourself in no matter what. He just can't hit anymore. So even in Coors, don't touch him. He's bad. But yeah, no, I think you're definitely looking at the top of this lineup, obviously. Super expensive, but I think it is definitely still in tournament play for the Cubs.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And not that Tyler Anderson has been bad, but it's just obviously this Cubs lineup and their numbers against lefties is certainly strong. And then you tack on Coors on top of it, even though Anderson has been better in Coors this year, oddly enough. It's still the Cubs offense, and you are definitely looking to get some sort of exposure there.
Yeah, no, definitely not cash. These guys are just tournaments. But as you mentioned, Anderson hasn't been horrible. But yeah, overall, I mean, I think they get to him at some point.
Chris Bryant is probably the only cash game worthy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I'm paying up for one bet, it's probably going to be Chris Bryant tonight.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I don't disagree. It's just a lot to pay for against Tyler Anderson. I get it though. Yeah.
I mean, you want to speak in for a lot to pay Charlie Blackmon at 5,700. I mean,
yeah, that's a lot.
He's been dialed in. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, Kyle Hendricks has pitched really well, but obviously, I'm curious to see how he does handle Coors. But I'm certainly going to be looking at obviously Carlos Gonzalez, Blackmon, even a David Dahl as well, and obviously Arenado there at third base. They're all certainly playable, and I think Arenado is probably going to be the lower owned out of the third bases here with Bryant and him going. Obviously, two of the best hitting ones in the game. But I think Bryant's going to obviously draw the more attention.
The David Dahl discount was fun while it lasted, huh?
Oh, yeah, you are not getting it anymore.
49 now. That's tough. So, yeah, no, I agree with what you said. Overall, still want to target the lefties there, even though they're crazy prices.
Yep, definitely agree. Yankees and Angels next year, Masahiro Tanaka versus Jared Weaver. Looking at this Angels offense first, I don't feel like I need to pay up for anyone. And I'm talking about Mike Trout. And as far as using the values there, I'm just not a big fan of that lineup. I think we could actually probably look at maybe a couple of Yankees, though. I
figured you were referring to Yunel Escobar, because that's certainly a payout for him. Yeah. No, I think the question of the night is whether you're going to pay for Gary Sanchez and Aaron Judge, and whether you're going to use them as values tonight. I think so. I mean, I'm just going to keep rolling with Gary Sanchez until the train falls off the tracks, whatever.
I'm in agreement. I mean, I like Sanchez, even though they use the bottom half of the lineup guy. I'm definitely with you there. You just look at Weaver. I mean, against righties, 349 WOBA, 1.61 home runs per nine since last year. Hard not to like it. I mean, obviously, it's a downgrade as far as the Yankees bats for power and park factor, but I'm certainly okay with it still.
Yeah.
As far as the middle half or top half of the lineup goes, I mean, I don't mind a Starlin Castro at 3,800. I don't mind some of these guys. If you wanted to make a GPP move, I think that's all it is for me. I think Sanchez is the only one who's just cash game playable because of his price tag. But everyone else is more just a GPP just because there hasn't really been a ton of upside for them away from home.
I had that same thought with Starlin Castro, and I'm like, yeah, no, this is a pretty good matchup for him. He's definitely in tournament play, but the rest of this lineup just doesn't appeal to me that much, which is probably why Jason wanted me to lead into the rest of the lineup, and I just gave him silence. So I don't know. I'm not that in on the rest of the lineup. I'm okay with Castro though.
Yeah, I'm definitely no. I'm in agreement. I mean, as far as using guys like Teixeira or Ellsberg or Gardner, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan, but obviously I don't mind Castro, Sanchez, Judge, as you mentioned. Gregorius could be an interesting guy if he's hitting third again. Obviously, it's just one of those weird GPP plays.
Yeah.
So, Brewers and Mariners here. You got two lefties, Brent Sutter versus Wade LeBlanc. Mariners big total here. Obviously, Nelson Cruz at 4,500 is something that's going to be probably one of the more chalkier outfield plays on DraftKings tonight. Really hard not to use him in this matchup.
I mean, you just roll him in 100% of your lineups unless you really like something else or you're stacking Coors or something goofy. I mean, you're just throwing him in at 45. That's easy, I think you can pretty much not ignore the rest of this lineup, but I think you just get Cruz from there and feel pretty good about getting that exposure to the Mariners,
Yeah, I mean, given the Willie Peralta change, I think that's where obviously DK was tripped up because Cano and Seager are certainly priced up like they're facing Willie Peralta, but they're not. Yeah. I don't mind Franklin Gutierrez. He's been hitting the ball well, 3,700. I still don't mind a Mike Zunino as a punt catching option in tournaments for GPPs. There's definitely some potential here with this Mariners team. Dae-Ho Lee, I'm always okay with in tournaments as a punt first baseman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't disagree there. Those are some pretty solid options, but yeah, overall, my mind is set on Cruz here against Sutter.
Yeah, definitely. As far as the Brewers go, I mean, there are a couple of bats here you can take a look at. I mean, obviously Wade LeBlanc. 370 WOBA so far to righties, 2.48 home runs per nine in just a limited starts. And the Brewers, I mean, away from home aren't really the most attractive team. But I guess you can take a look at guys like Villar, Arcia. I'm not quite sure I can pay up for the Braun price there in comparison to other guys, but it would just be more of a deep tournament play, if anything.
Oh, I wouldn't go deep for me. I like this Braun-Carter combo. I know they're not as good away from home, but I like this matchup for them against LeBlanc. I think there's some nice home run upside here. So yes, not cash, but I do like the matchup for those two.
Yeah, it certainly is a great matchup, and as you mentioned, not a cash game play, more tournaments than anything.
Right.
So, Giants and Mets next here. You got Johnny Cueto versus Seth Lugo. With Johnny Cueto on the hill, I mean, it kind of takes a lot of these guys back or off the chart for me. But obviously, Yoenis Cespedes coming back makes a little bit of a difference. That lineup looks a lot more friendlier. Not tonight, but in the future, it's certainly going to help out.
Yeah, no, with Cespedes and Neil Walker, it kind of goes, okay, you know what, this is pretty formidable now with Jay Bruce in the middle there. So certainly not playing any of them tonight, but and I'm certainly playing Cueto, but for the future, like you said, that worded it pretty well.
Yeah. As far as the Giants, I mean, they're not going to face Mats. It's going to be Seth Lugo. As far as some of these prices go, I mean, it's definitely much more intriguing now, given that they are facing a righty who I'm still not a big fan of the Giants offense, but I still can't knock guys like Brandon Belt or Brendan Crawford at 38 and 3,400. You got a cheap guy in Span leading off at 31. It's a decent value. I think they're okay cash game worthy values to plug in because they don't really ever leave you hanging. It's just there's never really a tremendous amount of upside.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like you don't have a great handshake, you just do the high five. But it's like, you know what? I know that hand's going to be there every time. I don't have to mess up any of the signals. Belton Crawford, solid cash game options, especially Crawford. I love that price.
Yeah, I do too. And as far as the other guys there, I mean, 4-3 Posey, I'm not really looking to use. Pence at 3-3, I guess you can make a case for as a cheap outfielder.
Could you see the 1-3-5 there as a viable tournament stack?
Probably not.
No.
I don't see a tremendous amount of upside. I mean, unless you paired it with cores, I guess maybe it would make a little bit more sense. You'd have to really work it into some other really high ceiling options.
Hmm.
Diamondbacks and Padres, Zach Greinke versus Jared Cozart. And obviously Greinke coming off a start where he absolutely got tattooed in Boston. But Greinke on the road has been solid this year. I mean, obviously, you can take this matchup and for instance, I mean, struggled against the Padres at home, but dominated there in Petco. Away games, I'm not really attacking Greinke, with this Padres offense.
I slacked Jason last night and I said, can't wait to tout Greinke tomorrow after that horrific start. So, I mean, yeah, I'm going to like him. I'm not going to be playing any of these Padres bats, though I do think there is some interesting contrarian leverage sort of moves you can make with Ryan Schimpf at 38. But overall, I'm going to be going hard at Greinke again. So for better or worse, that's where the cards are going to lay for me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. As far as the Diamondbacks, I mean, look at Cozart. He's a guy who, obviously has been up and down throughout his career, hasn't really gotten anything going. Does have a strong a high walk rate against righties, and also a 348 WOBA allowed. Because it's a 15-game slate, I'm not really a giant fan of the Diamondbacks. Obviously, you can still mention the guys like Segura, Goldschmidt, even a Tomas, but I think at their prices, I rather lean other options in better ballparks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's just so many good options tonight. I don't really need to dive into this lineup that much. I mean, obviously Goldschmidt's always in play. Lamb's always in play against a righty, but overall, it's just a little too expensive for me in this matchup in this park, with everything else sort of taken into account.
Yep, I definitely agree with you. That's going to wrap things up with the DraftKings Daily Trot. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for all great tools and content.